everybody. Welcome back to another show here at the Life School Masterclass Show. I am Elona Lepari, your host, helping companies align their purpose with profits. And today I have another amazing, successful entrepreneur that has built her companies in such a short time. So I'm so blessed to be able to have Carina Gardner here with us today. And she will share some of her, decision-making abilities and tips and things that she has learned and grown company in a very short amount of time, and also the amazing work that she's doing out there in the world. Carina, thank you so much for coming on, and I thank you ahead for your time and all the wisdom that you'll share with us today.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
I'm definitely excited to have you on. So, Carina, do you want to tell us a little bit around sort of what you have built? What is it that you do?
So I own a design business. I own a professional development company. And so what we do is we teach designers or artists how to create their own business. So we're kind of in the business of teaching people business and understanding profitability. One of the things that we saw is creatives really do struggle to make money. There's some mindset around it. There's kind of there's a knowledge gap in terms of creating products that actually can sell. And so that's what we teach. And I got into this because for the last almost 17 years, I have been a designer who's owned her own businesses. So I'm on 9 platforms. I'm a fabric designer for Riley Blake. I was the creative director of a scrapbooking company. And so a lot of what I've been doing is what I'm teaching now. So for a very long time, I basically just owned design businesses. So I owned companies that basically we made products as a designer, and then we would make income from all of that. And so we teach people now, the last 3 years, we've been teaching people how to do exactly the same thing that I've been doing for many, many years now.
Wow, what a beautiful journey in the design industry. It's always so fascinating and creative, but also to be able to turn that now into the purpose of helping other people do similar things and grow their own design company. Um, Carina, what are some of the most impactful decisions that you have made while you have scaled your companies that you find are the things that really drove things faster forward towards the right direction, helping you scale?
Yeah. So I think some of the best things I did was I tend to start just like a lot of people don't start. And I'll just go, even if I think I'm not maybe making the most perfect decisions. So I'll just like get going. We'll go ahead and this actually just barely happened. It's happening today. We have a secondary company that just barely started in the last 3 months. And it's a university basically teaching the same thing we do in our design program, but now we can give out master's degrees for it. And it's so funny because we chose a name and we are now changing the name again. Like, it's like, oh, we have a fall semester, huge enrollment coming in, but we're going to go ahead and make the change, even though I'm like, just do it. Just do the work as fast as you can. And then you're going to make changes and adjustments along the way. So that's one of the things. The second thing is that as a CEO, I think too many of us hand out a lot of things to our teams to do stuff. And I was growing a brand new team. One of the things I didn't hand out for the longest time was Facebook ads. And a lot of times people are like, they just want to hand off Facebook ads. It's like the thing that costs the most money in your company other than payroll, right? And so I took that back. Like I started doing it and then I handed it to an agency for a little while and I realized, oh, like I can control how much money is actually being spent here on a month-to-month basis. I don't have to talk to anyone if I just run them myself. And so I only gave them away for about 6 months of the last 3 years and took it back. Anything you can learn in your business that actually costs money or make money, you should be doing at the beginning. Like you shouldn't be handing off to team members. Consults is another one. I take a lot of calls with new and upcoming clients. I see that delved off a lot. And I did that also last year. I took it back. But then there are lots of things I never ever touch. Like I do not take back. There are lots of administration duties. I have coaches on my team that take care of all the calls directly inside of my program. So it's kind of prioritizing what makes money, what takes away money. And those are the things you should be concentrating your time on. A majority of my work is really working with my team, being in meetings. I've been in meetings all day, being on consults to bring people in to make sure that they're a good fit for our program, and spending time actually doing the expensing and advertising in my company.
Mm. Yeah, I love that you shared that. You started with, just begin, because the process of just making mistakes will teach you kind of, what is the right way to go about things. Because, yeah, the procrastination and perfectionism is what holds a lot of entrepreneurs back for sure. And the other piece is that the most high impact value activities that you're spending money or you're making money out of, it's really worth your time to be able to invest the time and energy to learn, but also have a good grasp on those as you're making your decisions. So then your major revenue, because I mean, everyone in business always wants more cash flow, more clients, they want more sales. So what has been the biggest channel of revenue generation for you for both your companies thus far? And is that actually the indicator to your success in your revenue and the short time span that you've been able to do this?
Yeah. So the biggest generator is our program Design Suite. That's our professional development program where we teach designers how to run businesses. So that program is a high ticket program. We have a 6 month and a 12-month version. It has 17 courses in it, and we have weekly meetings, and then they have coaches as well. And that is by far our biggest generator of income. Okay. We actually only started the university because that was so successful. We wouldn't have started the university if not. We found that there was a real, so I have a doctorate in design. I taught at the University of Minnesota. And one of the things that we saw was that what we were teaching was so different from other digital platforms. We see a lot of online classes out there. I always say it's like the wild west of digital platforms because everybody's like building online courses. And I was like, okay, here's the problem. We're creating academically rigorous content in our design program. But there's no way to show that because across the board, even if we have a 15-week course in all of our courses, it's still hard to show like, hey, listen, like we have academically sound principles, we have good business principles. Like the things we're teaching you are like real life working business things coupled with great design technology. We're up and coming. We're talking about AI and how to use it. We're kind of doing things really, really quick and right now, like what's happening right now. Well, if you go out there and you look at other design programs or you look at other, like any kind of program out there, like could be canning, it could be whatever it is. There's no way to know, like, is this person really going to deliver on their goods? And, we try to build a lot of trust and rapport. That's what you're trying to do in your company. But what we found is, and the reason we started the university is because we were like, we're literally doing all of these things already in our program. What if we gave a master's degree for it? Or what if we do a design certificate for it? And because we're already doing all the hard work to make that happen. So that's why the university started. I expect the university to be the biggest generator of income in about 4 to 5 years. So universities work totally different than everything else, right? So because we're playing a totally different game, we're working with the academic systems that are in place in the United States. We have a lot more things. So it takes longer. Whereas like the design business, we went from 0 to multi-million in only 3 years. Like it was fast, right? So it's just a totally different game. We'll keep both companies because some people don't want, a master's degree or a design certificate. They just want to build their business. So we want to do that. But then those that really do want a degree or a resume builder or they want to be creative directors, we know that the university is a good piece for them. I expect the university to be the biggest financial piece in about 5 years, but it'll take time.
Yeah. Well, I love how you have created in the moment and not in a vacuum, because that was going to be my other question, which I see a lot also, that we just, to split focus and energy into like so many different directions. And that obviously will, hurt your results. But I love that you said that you have a good pulse on the people, on your clients, what the needs are and how people are progressing through your design program. And then, the uh, next step pretty much for a different solution, be able to offer people that and repurpose a lot of, obviously, the service delivery piece that you're doing is to, go the university route. So I think that's very smart as well. And just staying really in tune with kind of where the market is and what is it that they're looking, and need, and for you to be that provider as well. But I love that. I mean, revenue, that like fast growth that you have had. I mean, most people with their businesses, they see that as like overnight success, right? We hear about this all the time. Is it because you right away invested in paid ads? Is that how you got, you grew so fast? Because a lot of times, entrepreneurs are like, well, should I build an organic audience? Should I build relationships, right? Should I do events? Should I do all these marketing channels and efforts to be able to grow my business? And a lot of times that takes maybe even years before they see the fruits of their labor. So the fact that you've been able to grow so fast, like what is that decision that you made that really catapulted, for you to be in front of the people that obviously saw the value in what you had to offer and fill your programs with the right clients?
Yeah. So we'll have to fast forward before the 3 years. For 13 years, I owned design businesses, right? And I worked in the industry. I knew other CEOs. I was a creative director. So I basically took 13 years of experience and audience building and then channeled it into a program that did exactly what I did. So it seems like an overnight success. But the truth of the matter is that I owned already design businesses that had already built me expertise and authority, right? Doing what I did before I created an educational program to teach people what I did, right? A lot of times I see, especially educational programs, people will just be like, I think, I've owned a podcast for like a year. I think I'm going to create a podcast course. Okay, that's all great and all, but like, that's not going to give you the same results as someone who's owned a unique business. And I was like a unique design. I'm in the crafting and fabric and surface pattern space. So I'm a very niche market. To build a 13-year business and then turn it into an educational piece. I already had, so the first week I launched, it was a test week, right? So I was like, let's see if this is going to work, right? So I ran a design boot camp 1 week, and I made that week on a very low ticket priced offer just to see if it would work. I made $18,000. No, organic, completely organic. So based on that, I was like, okay, so if that worked for a single week, what would happen if in a month from now I run this again, but I do it with paid ads? So then I tested that, right? So what I did was I ended up doing like, I think $700 in Facebook ads, and I made $10,000. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so I can see my organic traffic is stronger, right? But if I run ads to new people, they're still interested in this product at this low price. And then kind of based on that, I kind of grew it as I kind of figured out what was going on. So I grew fast, partially because I already had the education behind me. I knew exactly what I was doing. Like what I was teaching was exactly what I had done. So I was an expert in the field. I also had the credentials, right? Like I have a PhD in design. I was a creative director of a relatively large scrapbooking company. I worked at really big, like I have a contract with Silhouette. I have a fabric contract with Riley Blake. So I have like all of these things behind me. I had a huge deal with a independent store chain called Deseret Book in Utah, like where they were selling Carina Gardner products. So even though I didn't actually have a very big social media following, I still don't have a monstrous following. I had enough authority and credentials for people to know like what I was really talking about was true. Like I wasn't making things up. I was like, this is what you have to do. This is how long it's going to take. This is, like I knew what I was talking about. So I think partially we grew fast because of that. The second thing is that I started small. Our program is a very high ticket offer now, but it wasn't at the beginning. I was willing to test it on a few people at a much lower price. I think sometimes people go in, they were like, I'm worth $10,000. but you haven't earned it yet. So like you got to start smaller and see if you can sell an $1,000 or a $2,000 thing first. See if like people resonate with your education before you go crazy into high ticket, because it's not for everyone. You might find that it's very difficult for you to sell a high ticket offer.
Yeah, I love that you gave us that backtrack, because I really believe there's always like other things, right? Other circumstances that, sometimes for the marketing piece, a lot of people share the successes, and that's great. But I love that you said it's been 13 years in the making, much like myself. I find that, there's a lot of experience behind to understand and know what is the right decision I need to make now to be able to get to whatever goal is it that, you're trying to accomplish, including scaling a company as well. So, yeah, I love that awareness that you gave everyone, that you understood the processes, right? So then you made that decision, and that's how you're able to have that success as well. Karina, with that's very interesting with the university piece. What's the process with, to build a university, like to grow a university? Do you have to go and get accredited by the state that you are, are you opening like a brick and mortar, or is this like an online university for people that might be curious around the process of starting a university?
Universities are hard. I'm going to tell you that from the get go. Like, universities are very hard. I would never have even considered it if I didn't have a PhD. So, having a doctorate is the number one thing I'm going to tell you you should have if you're going to start a university. Not because as CEO you need a doctorate, but because I'm also the chief academic advisor. That means I'm over all faculty and coursework to make sure it's being done correctly. Because I have the doctorate, I can be the CEO, I can be the CAO, and I'm also the one kind of managing how all of the coursework and everything is going to happen. You have to fulfill a certain number of credit hours. You have to show like us, like we decided our Master's of Arts degree, which is a Master of Arts in Design Business. It has two emphasis areas, and you have to make sure all the coursework is 135 hours. Like if you're going to do a 3 credit hour class, you have to show that, and you have certain missions and goals you have to accomplish, and show how every course, all the outcomes bring you back to the university mission. So there's quite a bit of thought work that goes into building a university. That doesn't match the tactical work. So the first thing is you have to decide who you're going to work through your accreditation through. Okay. So we are not accredited. Okay. And in fact, while you're working in accreditation, like you actually really can't talk about it. Okay. So at this point in time, we can't even discuss accreditation. In order to give away a master's degree or a certificate, we have an undergraduate certificate. What you have to do is, we're in the state of Utah, you have to get a license from your state that you reside in. So we got a post-secondary license that works in 23 states, and we only are servicing those 23 states at this moment. We have to work on the licensure for every single state until or if we decide to work on accreditation. And that is a long process. We're talking 3 to 5 years. So most people aren't thinking long term like that. Now that I've owned multiple companies, like I'm like, okay, we're thinking in a 10-year block. Like we're thinking like, what's going to happen in the next decade to make things work. Okay. And because of that, we have to just think way long term about how we're doing things. It makes it really hard at the beginning. Really, really hard. So we're basically enrolling students only from our states that we are currently have licensing, like that we can license in, and we will give out degrees and certificates in that. And then we have to work through everything else. For those that are interested in ever starting a university, the first recommendation I would do is go to the Department of Education's website and the CHIA website. CHIA has all the accrediting bureaus, and you have to start there. You need to decide who's going to be your best accrediting bureau for you. And then you start working directly with them. I would highly recommend, because I can't talk too much about it, but my recommendation is you get a hold of someone at any of the bureaus that you're interested in working with. I talked to several, and you're going to, I would suggest attending whatever show they have. So, and not show, but like their conference. Attend that conference. Make sure that they're the right accrediting bureau for you. Work through the post-secondary licensing. We hired a consultant to help us with everything because it's very demanding as a process goes. There are things I just had no idea we were going to have to do. Did you know if you own a university, you must have a library? Yeah. Who knew, right? And so because of that, we have to build and create or purchase an online library and have a librarian on staff who's doing research for you. So there's all of these little things. We had to hire a registrar. We have a registrar on staff and an academic advisor who's looking at everyone's transcripts, making sure they're correct. There's a lot of different softwares you have to bring in. So it's no small process. It's probably the first 2 years are quite rigorous to get everything in track. We're right now in the middle of building our advisory board. This is a free position, but you have to get the right people on that board. In that board, those people are helping you make sure that all your academics are correct, that you're following the mission, your course outcomes are following the mission. So I'm going to say this is not for the faint of heart. And in no way would I have done it if we didn't already have a base with Design Suite. Design Suite really showed us, like, I don't just go into something and I'm like, let's just try this. We start small, and we're like, okay, so this really works well. This is like killing it. People love it. We're getting the right people in. We're helping people build businesses. We have a good percentage rate of people who open their first shop and get their first sale. So we know this works. Okay, now what does that look like in a degree program? And how can we get the same outcome, but you can also get a degree? And so we went into it very much using the data we've already created into the university program.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think something that stood out to me is the vision, right? Working 10 years, into the future, and then breaking down the steps and the projects that need to be focused on to be able to bring such a thing to life. I think that's really important. And yeah, I mean, that's another thing, idea for sure for people that are looking to start and grow university, because that's a lot of people are education oriented, and a lot of people are very upset with traditional education and how it's laid out and how he hasn't prepared people for kind of where we're going. So there's a big gap there for sure. So I appreciate you sharing your experience and process and building that in addition to your design program. Carina, as we end this conversation, I would like for you to share some of the main components inside the design program for people that are curious and interested in listening to this podcast. What are some of the things that they're going to be learning inside the program to be able to help them build and grow a design business?
Yeah. So hopefully some of these things that we're doing, you guys can incorporate into your program. I kind of don't believe in one-off courses. That I think people need human interaction, especially with AI and all the stuff going on. Like, we need some interaction in order to get people where they need to go. So one of the first things I implemented was a weekly meeting. It's a 1-hour meeting. It's a different meeting every week. One week it's what we call squads, where they meet in their groups, and they get to talk to each other. One week we do a mentor workshop where we take everyone's like design stuff and we kind of like highlight the best and also things that people can improve on. One week is a guest expert, where I will do like an interview with someone in-house, like a CEO of a fabric company or a creative director of a scrapbooking company, or just like so that people can see what's really going on in the industry. So industry specific. We also do learning labs so that people are learning how to do like the actual software and stuff. That's one of the things we do. The other thing we do is we do a quarterly virtual conference. It's usually about 5 hours long, and we're pulling all the stuff we're seeing happening in the industry right then and talking about it so that everybody's on top of it. A year and a half ago, Etsy raised all of their prices, and there was something like 20,000 shops that went on strike. Those are the kinds of things like that are happening in the moment, not relevant right now, was relevant back then. So if you're talking about those things as they're happening in the marketplace, then you are a much stronger, better company, better program for your people, because they're understanding like how to move forward based on what you're seeing in the industry. And the other thing we do that's a really interesting, I don't know if it works for other programs, I think it could, but we do something called mentor critiques. In design, you don't get any better if you don't have someone looking at your stuff. And so what we do is you can submit stuff on the weekly. Might turn in like a logo, for example. You have a coach who will then do a video for you, not just type. We do a video with your stuff to make sure that the colors are right, that you've got your spacing correct, negative space is working, the way it looks is great, it's saying the right things, you're using the right typeface. Like, so we're doing critiques as you would in a normal university setting, but we're doing it weekly with our students and they can turn their stuff in. To me, that's the gold of the program, because if you don't have your stuff looked at, how do you know if you're going to be a better designer? How do you know your business is going to work? And so since we're so product based, we want to make sure that people are getting that.
Yeah, it seems like definitely a value packed, jam packed program, but also I like the fact that you also have a good pulse on the industry, because I think everything's changing so fast that having being relatable and not be consuming old content that no longer resonates or no longer works. I think that's
Yeah.
the problem with pre-recorded stuff that's just been sitting in libraries for a long time. And there's obviously fundamentals will be always be there, but when you're adapting to all the new things, I think it definitely makes it value packed and relatable for people so they can get results in real time. Carina, I thank you for everything that you shared with us so far. I would like to leave the audience with the next step toward this conversation. Where is it that they can further connect with you, check out the work you do, and maybe even connect with you if they resonated with anything that we talked about today?
Yeah, you can go to my main website at carinagardner.com. That's probably the easiest place. That'll shoot you off into Design Suite to learn about our courses. It'll shoot you off to events we do. We have multiple events a year online, and then we have an in-person event. It will also, not quite yet, depending on when this comes out, but the university will be on there, so you can go check out the university. It's so great. We opened it 2 weeks ago for enrollment, and we're almost full for the classes for the fall. So that happened so quickly that we haven't been doing very much marketing on it, because we're only taking a smaller set of people to run the initial classwork through. But if you want to go check that out, that's great. I have a couple of books out, and one of them has a free class if you would like to take it. Just go to carinagardner.com, click on events. It's called Make Art That Sells. And if you go click on that, I'm going to give you a code. It's just called Make Art. If you click on that Make Art That Sells book and go to the second link and put in the code Make Art, you can get that masterclass for free.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I definitely would encourage everyone to at least connect and then find ways to be of a good resource with one another. And Carina, thank you so much for all the amazing work that you're doing out there in the world with super ambitious projects, obviously creating so much impact, whether it's in the design, industry, or even with your university there. Definitely education is very close to my heart. So the more people are aware and educated, the more we can make better decisions and live conscious lives. So thank you so much for coming and sharing. And I want to thank you for always watching the show, by subscribing, by sharing the show with other amazing entrepreneurs and CEOs. It means a lot to me, so that this information gets to the right people and we can all connect with one another. I always encourage connecting with our guests to start in these conversations and be able to build really genuine, good, healthy human relationships. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another amazing guest and conversation. Bye, everybody. Are you experiencing these two main gaps in your company and your business? Inconsistent cash flow and clients, and also scalability issues. Maybe you've reached your maximum capacity with your current business model and the way that you're operating your business now, and you are really experiencing burnout and no time freedom in your business, but you're not sure what to do to be able to scale your company to the next level so that your company also becomes an independent asset outside of you, so that it can become an asset if maybe later you would like to sell your company or build a legacy company that really does more good in the world. For my dear podcast listeners, I'm offering a free 30-minute discovery call where I will intentively listen to what is it that you've built in your company thus far, and then offer my insight around some of the gaps that I can hear from the main gaps that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation that you might be experiencing. And I would love to offer some insight around my experience on what might some of those gaps be and ways to further support you in the future of the scaling of your purpose and profit, so that absolutely you can do more good in the world and your company can be independent of its founder and owner and become an asset that also creates amazing momentum out there in the world. For a limited time, I would love to offer my 30-minute time on my calendar for a free discovery call. You can just grab a time on the QSR code right here on the left-hand side of the screen, and grab a time so we can further connect. Again, thank you so much for being loyal listeners to the podcast and also for always supporting the show. I'll see you with another episode and another amazing conversation.